Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
WOKB, Winter Garden, Orlando.
Welcome to another edition of Real Family Talk. Hello. Welcome to Real Family Talk. This is your host, Jay Real. Hope everybody's having a great evening out there. I know I am. It is Tuesday night. As I always say, every Tuesday night, as far as I'm concerned, is a great night. But welcome to the show. Let me welcome my panel here. Got Jeremy's back in the building. How you doing tonight, Jeremy?
I'm good. How's everybody doing?
Excellent. And Miss McCrae's here. How we doing, Miss McCrae?
I'm blessed. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Miss McCrae. And it's a vacation week for me. I don't have to go into work, so it's a great day.
That's good.
On top of it being Tuesday night. I've been chilling all day. Nice. Love that.
That's always good.
That is always a good thing, man. But couple quick topics before we get into some news-related things. We're going to had to change up at the last minute, but it happens. We'll get it together, and we'll get that other show going real soon here. But real quick, Tiger, third win this year, man. He's back. Tiger Woods is back at the number one ranking. Say the first time since, I think they say October 2010. He's the number one golfer in the world. Now, we'll see. The Masters is coming up. It is the Masters, I think, coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah. So
we'll see how he does at the Masters. I have a feeling he's probably not going to win. I think he'll be, in the top 10 or something to that nature. But I don't think he's going to win at the Masters. I just think, it's not that he's not good enough, but, it takes a lot. You know what I mean? That's a lot of windfall in the next couple of weeks. And maybe he will, but I just have a feeling he'll be in the top 10 again, but I don't think he's going to win.
He's going to win.
He's going to win. That's what I'm going to say. He's going to win.
He's going to win.
You think he's going to win? Why is that?
He has a blonde now.
He has his blonde back?
And it's official. Like, he's officially in a relationship. He's not just dating. It's serious. They put pictures on Facebook. Like, it's serious.
Is that what it is?
So he's going to win.
When the pictures hit Facebook, it's real, huh?
Yeah, that's his energy.
Is that right?
Yep.
Is that your reasoning too, Jeremy? He's got his blonde back.
No, I just think he got his. But to me, that's the crazy thing. But to me, it seems like Charlotte got better players. But
yeah, but they got young players too.
Yeah.
They're not veterans in Charlotte, so I think that makes a difference. I think in the NBA, having veterans and having a veteran leader makes a huge difference in the NBA. A huge difference in winning consistently. And then being on that teeter-totter. Because even when you look at Oklahoma, it took them, they had those three guys. They didn't just get the three guys and then, boom, they were Oklahoma City. It took them a couple years to play together, a couple years to get the system right, and then get some other veterans in there to kind of back them up, and then, now they're Oklahoma City.
Right.
But yeah, in the NBA, being a rookie and being good is just a piece of it. It just doesn't come together like that. You have to put those veteran pieces in there. I guess it's that maybe it's the leadership that the veterans bring or something. But in the NBA, if you don't have no veterans killing you or playing big time for you, a lot of times you're not going to be at the top. You might teeter-totter at the bottom, but you're not going to be at the top. But we'll see what happens. I think I heard a debate the other day. They say, what's better, having this winning streak or the championship? I think. And they had the differing opinions on both sides of that. But I think the winning streak is a lot more difficult than the championship. That's what I think.
I would agree as well, because it's one thing, to win, just even where they at now, to win 27 games straight is a very daunting task. I mean, it's a reason only one of the teams ever done it. So it's really no joke. It's definitely more difficult because you have to play more than one team. So you playing different teams every night, getting their best shot every single night. And you know, when you win the championship, yeah, you got to win 16 games it is.
Yeah.
But you're still only playing 4 teams.
Right. And you're playing a 7-game series on those 4 teams. So.
Right. So you
so
have
really you can lose
opportunities.
3 times as long as you can beat them 4.
Right.
Yeah.
So not and of course winning the championship is a lot greater than the winning streak, but I think the winning streak is a lot more difficult to maintain than to win, beat one team 4 times out of 7.
Right.
I think that's a little bit easier than maintaining and beating 27 or 20-something odd teams consistently. And maybe we'll see. The record is 33.
33.
The record is 33, held by, it's been the 70s since they did that. 1971, 72.
71.
70, is it 70-71 or 71-72? It's the 70s Lakers team that did the 33. And so in 30 or 40-something odd years, nobody's even come close.
Right.
So just the fact that they're close is, says a lot, especially in a league right now that there's a lot of good teams out there, and they're beating them consistently. Yeah. So shout out to the Heat, man. But at the end of the day, it kind of goes back to New England. Yeah, they had a 16-0, 17-0, 18-0 season and got to the Super Bowl and lost. And it was just like, yeah, okay, but you lost the Super Bowl. Yeah. And it will be the same way for the Heat, too. They may get the streak and maybe they'll beat it at 34 or whatever. But at the end of the day, if at the end of the season they're not the champions, it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. But we'll see what happens with these Heat, man. I'll call them my second team because I'm a Magic fan, because I'm in Orlando, support the home team. But
I call it my favorite team. You can call it what you want to call it.
I support the home team, man. I support the home team, even in defeat. But shout out to the Heat, man. They're certainly accomplishing something great. And I think it's just good to see history being made in front of you. That's always nice to see.
It is always
because it's not often you get to see history, especially to be a part of something that 20 years from now they're going to be talking about the Heat. And you can talk about how I was there, which you can't do.
Saw it.
Yeah, I saw it happen. I didn't have to read about it.
So when your son talking about they good, man, please, they ain't got nothing. On the Heat in 2013.
Exactly.
That's some real basketball, boy.
Exactly. Definitely. 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. Let's get into some of these topics we're going to hit on today. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the Supreme Court. A lot of big things happening there that will eventually trickle down and potentially affect us. And then as well as there's a new book out by the CEO of Facebook. Her name is Sheryl Sandberg. And for whatever reason, there's some controversy behind the book, which kind of baffles me. The book itself, it's called Lean In, written by Sheryl Sandberg. She's the current CEO of Facebook. And essentially, she's encouraging women to lean in at whatever profession that you're in and find that way to be successful in business, at your job, that is, be successful in family as well, and sort of be that woman that's working and that woman that handles her business at home as well. It's kind of what I gather about the book, because she herself, she's in her mid-40s, I believe, is about where her age is. And it talked about how she's still, even that she's a CEO now, she still, tries to go home every day, have dinner with her kids at night. And so she's kind of doing it all. She's got the big time job. She's and still going home and trying to eat kids every night with her babies, who are young children. She doesn't have teenagers yet. They're still in that developmental age. And so, it baffles me, though, that people are kind of hating on her, saying, oh, it's easy for you to say that because you're the CEO. You got all this money, blah, blah, blah. And, I'm down here, trying to get to where you are. And that baffles me because, men all the time, successful men write, self-help books, encouraging books for men or for people, we'll say. And I've never heard the criticism of it's easy for you to say that because you're sitting on this perch. You've made it and blah, 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 blah. But yet here's this woman who's basically doing the same thing. And yet she's getting criticism and pushback from women. More, it ain't even men, because, men don't like to comment because, as soon as he comments, they're going to be, oh, look at you, sexist. So it ain't the men that's saying it. It's the women that are pushing back on her and kind of, degrading her because she is so successful, and yet she still sort of has this mindset of doing it all. Like I said, it baffles me. What do you think, Ms. McCray?
I can see both sides, and I've been following her story for a while now. The piece on 60 Minutes, she was just on Oprah's Next Chapter, and I mean, she admits that it's not easy. It's not hard. It's not easy balancing what she has to balance with her kids and being a wife and being CEO of one of the major companies in America. But then, she says she's out of her house by 5:30, 6 o'clock, when the grunt work people are still working. If you understand, like reading some of the posts and articles, people are like, yeah, you're the CEO. You make up your own hours. You make up your own rules. Whereas if you have somebody who's doing the grunt work or the worker bees, they may not be able to leave at 5:30. They might have a set schedule from 8 to 7, whatever the case may be a single mother doing it on her own. But I think she's promoting female empowerment. I don't understand the aspect of people bashing her, saying that she's not for women. I think it's the opposite. I think she's just saying, hey, we need to step it up and demand and expect more out of ourselves in this man's world. I like her. I think she's been doing a good job. And I mean, she's, a billionaire?
I don't know how much money she has. I didn't see that. Is she a billionaire? I don't know if she's a billionaire. Yeah. I'm sure she's a multi-millionaire, but I don't know if she's a billionaire.
And then her husband is the CEO of some tech company as well. And he already sold, I had all of their background. I forget. He sold one company, and now he started another one that's blowing up, and they're good.
They're good. She's the CEO of Facebook.
They have nannies. Let's put it that way.
I know she's good, but I still think, again, I think the foundation of the criticism, 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. The foundation of the criticism comes from the fact that this woman is writing a book for other women who's at the top of her game, which, like I said, I look at men. Men do this all the time. They write books and then they're to encourage people to do better, this, that, and the third. And you never hear this criticism of, it's easy for you to say that because blah, 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 blah. And I just find it, really interesting that women would make that comment against another woman who's only doing the same. Like you say, she's not saying that if you can't do, if you're not working the same type of schedule she is, that somehow you're not as good of a mother. She didn't say that. I didn't hear her say that in anything she said. She just talked about what she's tried to do from the position that she can. And she has been in positions of power or executive level positions. One of the things she talked about is, even though she was taking the position, one of the first conversations she had was, hey, I'm going to take this position. I deserve it. I can do it. But I need you to understand that I'm going to try and leave here every day at 5:30, 6 o'clock so I can go see my baby. You know what I'm saying? And so, what I gather from that is just that concept of, listen, women, let's be empowered. Let's be slightly more assertive sometimes. And they may be offering us the executive position, but let's not say, well, I understand that you just working all day from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. at night, but I got a baby at home I'm trying to go see, and I'm gonna do this position, but I'm gonna leave every day at 5:30. When you're moving and you're getting up in there, up in your company, and when you're moving up in your company, she's just, to me, it just sounds like she's suggesting be a little bit more assertive. Just don't take it because you're just grateful to get there. You know what I mean? Get into the negotiation. Don't be afraid to step up and say, hey, I'm trying to go see my baby when they get off or before they go to bed or whatever the situation is. That's kind of what I grasp from it. Even in, there's sort of a movement that she's kind of created too. And I'll let you comment and I'll talk about that too.
Well, here's the flip side to that. She's saying that now that she's CEO, I'm curious, was she able to have that same attitude when she was on the come up? When she was on the grind trying to get to the CEO table. I think that may be that angle of where some women are talking about. It's like you're saying that now as a CEO that you're leaving at 5:30, 6 o'clock because, again, you're CEO of this company. Were you like that when you were just an associate, working your way up to being a manager, working your way up to be an executive? Like, where was that? What was your position at that time in your career? I would be curious to ask her that.
That's a good question.
Is her kids?
The other question too. How old are the kids are?
I think 6 and 4.
So here's the other question: did she have kids when she was working on doing that?
Exactly.
So but it doesn't take away from the message. Like I said, there's a movement that they've started. Built around the title of this book. 407-894-1680 is the number. It called leanin.org, leanin.org. and on the website, they talk about, it's sort of for ladies. It's built as a website to encourage all people, but at least right now, it seems to be a lot of women tracking to the site than there are men. But they, a lot of women are sharing stories of how they leaned in and in their particular job. I did read one story on there about a lady who talked about when she was coming into a firm. She was about the young age of 22, and she was starting out in some financial firm. And she talked about how one of the things her boss at the time talked to her about was, yes, I know you're 22. Yes, I know in some of these meetings that we're about to go into, you're going to be, one of the youngest people in the room. The other people in the room are going to be highly successful. They're going to own businesses. They're going to have been in business for, a number of years and have a lot more experience per se in the world than you. But I still want you to come to this meeting and then be assertive. Come to this meeting and don't sit in the back of the room. Sit at the table with everybody else and have something to say. And she talked about how, that conversation with her, her boss at the time, encouraged her to, quote unquote, lean in, right? That's what we're selling right now, leaning in. So, it encouraged her to lean in. And then as a result, she wasn't afraid to sit at you walk into a conference room, there's a bunch of chairs around the big conference table, then there's a bunch of chairs along the side. So she wasn't afraid to sit at the table and not in one of the side chairs because she was one of the youngest people in the room, one of the most, quote unquote, unexperienced people in the room. She sat at the table and she threw out her ideas and her opinions because, as he said, your ideas and opinions are going to be fresh. They're not coming from a mind of, well, I've done this for 20 years and so I know it works. They're coming from a mind of, well, hey, this is something new. Let's try it. And there's other stories on there as well from a number of different ladies talking about how they leaned in. And so, again, I see it just as a movement to encourage women to move forward in whatever they're doing. And to kind of step out there and not be so afraid or maybe a little less passive because you are maybe the only woman in the room at the time or whatever the case may be. And so I just find it really odd that anybody would criticize any woman for encouraging other women to sort of, step up and take more of a proactive role in whatever it is that you're doing. Again, they talk about how women are behind in pay. They talk about some of the struggles that women have. So to find a woman who is at the top of her game right now, because Facebook is one of the largest companies in the world at the moment, and then to knock her because she's just simply trying to encourage other women to do the same. Like it's no different as I see it as the president saying to all young black men in the world, hey, you too can be president. Hey, all young women in the world, you too can be the CEO of one of the top 5 companies in the world. And you don't have to sacrifice a family to do it, is all she's trying to say. You don't have to give up having the 2 kids at home. You don't have to give up having a loving husband that supports you. You can have it all and still make it to the top. I don't understand how anybody could dog that message. 407-894-1680. Yes, ma'am.
That's a little off. Because she does say, again, it's not easy and you can have it all, maybe not all at the same time. is what she was stressing in her recent interview with Oprah, because they both talked about how women always have this over our head, like having it all. We're juggling family, being a wife, job, career, all these things. And sometimes you feel guilty that one or the other isn't coming through. You're worried about your kids, you're worried about your husband, your marriage, and then this career. So she stressed that. This was Sunday, and I just watched it again today just to refresh. But she was like, it's not easy. I'm not trying to let y'all know that I have it all together, but this is what we need to have this type of conversation to give us the power to empower us to move forward as women in careers.
You're right about that. It's never easy.
It's no joke.
It's not even easy to get to the CEO of a company.
Not at all.
But you can do it.
Yeah.
It is possible. And I think the biggest point, right? You don't have to sacrifice your dreams in order to get what you want, right? You can sort of work to still have it all, and it may be hard to keep it. And anything in life that you want, and is worthwhile is going to be work. So we have to understand that even marriage is work. So, but it is possible, and I think the ultimate message here is to encourage women to have that. And again, I don't understand why anybody would knock that particular general message, which is very general. It's like you say, it's not specific. It's not a do-all to say this is how you do it. It's not a do-all to say that if you do it like me, you're going to be CEO of a top 5 company in the world. It's just to say that you can do it. You just have to work at it, and you too can achieve your dreams. So Sheryl Sandberg is the name. Lean In. You had the full title because I'm missing the full title. I know Lean In is the tagline that they're selling, but there's a couple words after it. The title of the book, Sheryl Sandberg, though, is her name. Is the title of the book, man. She's out trying to encourage women. Leanin.org is the website out there. They also have a lot of educational material because they're selling a whole platform for businesses, for companies, to potentially have different speakers come in and talk about how to sort of integrate different policies, practices, procedures in order to kind of better help your business flow. So it's a pretty good, interesting website that they've created as a platform off of the book. Yes, ma'am. Lean In: Women, Work, and the Will to Lead. Thank you very much. That's what it's called. Thank you. So Sheryl Sandberg is the name. 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. I want to move on here. Couple, like I said, Supreme Court cases that are happening that could potentially, affect us at some point. Here, so I want to get on that. The first one I want to hit on is affirmative action. So there's another Supreme Court case relative to affirmative action. It all relates back to the Michigan Law School is one, and the other one is the University of Texas admissions policy as well, where both schools have this policy where they include race as a factor in admission. It's not the factor, it's not the determining factor, but it is a factor. And their point is we want to make sure we're creating this diverse student population in our admissions process. And so they include it as a part of the admissions process in order to help create diversity within their schools is the idea. And a couple of cases have challenged whether that is even legal to have that as a factor. Again, it's not the determining factor, although it is a factor. And so that's the question. So the question that I wanted to ask, though, is affirmative action still necessary? It's 2013. Is affirmative action still necessary? That's the question I wanted to ask. 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. Is affirmative action in 2013 still necessary? What do you guys think? I know Jeremy's a little pro-black. Jeremy, what do you think? Is affirmative action still necessary?
Why I got to be the one that's pro-black? Is it necessary? College admissions, I would say it would just depend on the institution. I say if it's a public institution, yes. And that meaning, obviously the taxpayers are paying for it, so I believe the university should reflect society as a whole. A private institution, if they're not giving government subsidies or government funds, I believe it's just their right to kind of do what they want to do. I mean, if they're privately funded, they come up with their own money. That's their prerogative to do, do what they want to do. But public institutions, yes, I do believe it should be a consideration.
So in public institutions, affirmative action should be a consideration since they're collecting public funds. Okay. All right. Private institutions can do what they want, huh? So you do think it's necessary, but do you think it's necessary? Is it necessary so that if we didn't have affirmative action out there, would you still think the public institution would maintain a diverse population? Or you think they need to be told that this is what they need to do? Which is essentially, to me,
I'm gonna say you're gonna need it because
you need legislation to say, hey, there's this legislation here, and if you're not doing it, then there's going to be some consequences and some repercussions. So do we need the legislation, or do you think we've reached a point in society where it's going to naturally be that case, even if there isn't some underlying policy in place to ensure it's going to happen?
I think you do need it because at the end of the day, you can't trust people. If you go give somebody the absolute power to make decisions like that, everybody's not gonna be, corrupt and gonna be kind of got their own agenda and run it. But just for but you could say that just like in housing or any other matter or with jobs that there's affirmative action. It's there for the people who will use it, who will use that power to corrupt and push their own agenda and deny people wrongfully.
Okay, so you do think we need affirmative action in place. 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. Do we need affirmative action is the question. Yes, ma'am, Ms. McCray, what do you think?
Well, I'm curious, how else or what other method would you think could be used to ensure that there is a diverse student body other than looking at race?
I don't necessarily know if there's a way to ensure that it takes place without having a policy in place. But I think naturally, if given the opportunity, there's going to be diversity. Because a lot of things that, one of the things I noticed in looking at the Michigan Law School case, I was looking at their admissions for the last year, for the class of 2016. And it was about, I think, 20-something% was minorities. Okay, but of course that was all minorities.
Right.
That was Asians, African Americans, and Hispanics, so all of them. And then I found something that actually broke it down by student. And so when I looked at it by student, because most times, let's be honest, when we're thinking affirmative action, we're not talking about Asians, we're usually not talking about Hispanics, especially when you're talking about black folk. Black folk, we're really looking at, well, how many black folk got accepted? So that's what they want to know. That's what we want to know when we say affirmative action. And so I looked at that, and in that class, there's 32 of them. So there was 1,000, I think maybe a little less than 1,000 accepted into the law school. 32 of them were actually black. So 32 were black. There's, I think in 60 or 70 were Asian, and Hispanics were in the 30s and the 40s somewhere as well. And so that was sort of the breakdown. So that the diversity is going to happen. The question is not really about diversity. The question is really, to me, about what type of diversity are you going to get? And that's the question. And so if you're looking for a specific type of diversity, then that's where you might have policies in place. But if you're looking for diversity, I think diversity is going to happen naturally because we are, as a whole, people are bigger, faster, stronger, if you will. They are smarter than perhaps they were a number of years ago. Minorities in general are at least enough of us who are looking to achieve those kinds of higher educational needs. Let's say that we are scoring better on average when that's our goal. We're doing better than maybe we were 10 years ago when that's our goal. Now there's those of us that are teeter-tottering at the bottom that want to be there. But when you're talking about, these types of schools, because, University of Michigan is top 25 law school, if I'm not mistaken, this is a competitive admission process. You don't get in there with a 3.0 undergrad in college. I don't care if you went to Yale, you don't get in there with a 3.0 GPA from Yale, per se.
Sure.
Not on average. It's not a guarantee. You might get in,
okay,
but it's not a guarantee.
All right.
I looked at even if you look at their average GPA, their average GPA is about 3.5. So I mean, obviously, everybody that got in didn't have a 3.5 or 4.0, but if you're going to be competitive, right, which is the goal when you're talking about grad school. Or any school for that matter, your goal is to be competitive. If you're going to be competitive, then you need to have the proper scores, and if you don't have the proper scores, the thing that always gets me is, there's so many other opportunities that even if you didn't get into the University of Michigan, there's a ton of schools out there.
Yeah.
There's a few hundred schools that are law schools that don't necessarily require that you have a 3.5 GPA and 100 and something 20 or whatever on the LSAT. Which is the exam you have to take in order to qualify to go. So, there's other options, that you don't necessarily have to have a specific policy in place to allow a certain group of people to be able to get in based on diversity.
You want the best of the best, right? If you're a student, you want to go to the best school possible. You've done the best that you could do. And you're saying, so because you can't get into Michigan, then go for like the second best?
I'm saying if you can't get into Michigan, there's other options. That's what I'm saying. So that if you don't get into Michigan, there's other options. And so that if there are quote unquote affirmative action policies not in place, again, I think naturally diversity is going to happen because there are going to be minorities that qualify in order to get into whatever range of students that they would prefer. So if they prefer students, with 3.5 GPAs or better, and then with LSAT scores of 120 something or better, then there's minorities out there that qualify for that. They exist.
The amount, though.
Now,
I think that's
now,
what...
do they all apply to the University of Michigan? No, probably most of them did not apply to the University of Michigan. But will they get through? Some of them will get through. So that the policy in and of itself doesn't need to be there. I don't think it's necessary.
No, I would say this now. That's one thing I don't understand. When people apply to one school, don't get in, and now they want to run the numbers. Like you said, there are other options. Apply to a few more schools. Maybe that school just wasn't for you. It might be too competitive. At the end of the day, what really matters is if you get your law degree. Because everybody got to pass the same bar. And when you go to get your job, if you can come in and say, hey, I passed the bar, but, obviously you're going to have to, you're going to have a good interview, and it helps to know a few people, but, maybe you might just have to work a little harder. But I don't understand people applying to one school and they can't get in. Now they want to sue. There are options out there.
Yes.
That's what happened with the girl in Texas, right?
That's what happened with the girl in Texas.
Fisher.
That's the same reason why the Michigan Law School one is there too. They had students that applied, didn't get in. And in both cases, I believe the students went on to other schools and still obtained a law degree, but they just didn't obtain one from in the Michigan's case, they were trying to obtain a law degree. In the University of Texas case, she was just trying to go to school at the University of Texas. But in both cases, both of the people, if I'm not mistaken, did go on and attend college and or law school and completed it. It was just that they didn't get into, their initial school, which was the University of Michigan Law or the University of Texas. So, it's not like they sat around and twiddled their thumbs and said, woe is me because I didn't get into this school. They just said, woe is me because there's policies in place that may have prevented me from going. But the bigger issue, because if depending on how, these cases turn out, which we won't know until June approximately, is the expectation. The bigger issue comes because if the policy here is that you can't use affirmative action as an admissions policy, then the next thing becomes, well, can you use affirmative action in contracts? Government contracts. Right. Can you use affirmative action in, whatever? It's going to be applied universally to any situations, and potentially you might have people, string up lawsuits to challenge a lot of the things that affirmative action is used for, which is why I asked the question, do we need affirmative action in 2013? I think we're doing better, as a people. Again, I think we're bigger, faster, stronger. And perhaps there's some people that are getting things simply based on affirmative action, but I think a lot of people are getting things because they are bigger, faster, stronger. They are competing with the other people who are vying for these, and in a lot of cases, in some cases, they are better. In some cases, we've made it to the point where now we have somebody on the inside too, and so we get in some favor and different things. And so, again, that's why I asked the question, do we need affirmative action? Because it's applying to this law school or the admissions process now. But if the Supreme Court overturns it and says, yeah, this admissions policy is a violation of the Constitution and they can't use affirmative action in this case, then, like I said, the next thing that's coming, it's only a matter of time before they bring it up and say, well, hey, what about, I got denied this contract, this government contract due to affirmative action. Is that right? Or I didn't get, this loan because of affirmative action, because a lot of times they're required to give a certain percentage of loans to minorities. And so, hey, I didn't get this loan because of blah, blah, blah. So, is it necessary in 2013? That's why I asked the question. 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. Is it necessary in 2013? I would argue that there's always going to be a place where affirmative action is needed to do the right thing, because we live in America and we're a very diverse country. Some of us have moved on. Other of us are still back in the day 50 years ago. But again, randomly, where that is and who that is, you never know. Yeah. But overall, I think we are much further along than we were. And it's a lot of where we are, I think, has to do not with the policies that are in place, but really about the people that are in place. And so, in a lot of times, we don't have because we didn't try, not that because it wasn't there. And so, I don't necessarily know that affirmative action needs to be there. I do think, though, people in general have to step up. And if we're stepping up, then the things that we want, the things that we need will be in place. But if we're not stepping up, affirmative action or not, it's not going to happen. And I think that's where we are today. It's not happening, not because of a policy. It's not happening because we aren't doing.
I disagree. But as usual, I disagree.
I mean,
it's nothing.
Go ahead, Philip.
No. I mean, we only have a little bit more time.
Go ahead, Ms. McCray. What you guys say?
We could just go back and forth all day. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, I'd say I disagree too. I mean, I don't believe we just not stepping up as a whole, and people aren't ready to do things, aren't ready to fill spots that can do the job as well, if not better. The problem is a lot of times we still just not getting chances. Mm-hmm. I honestly believe that. Is it better? Yes, it's a little better. It's not the 50s, it's not the 60s, it ain't the 70s or the 80s anymore. But we ain't too far off the 90s. Things are better, but they are still. Well, I don't believe they're still just equal to where you can say, we don't need this stuff. Just let everybody do what they do, and everything will work itself out.
Right.
I just don't believe that.
No. I think you're giving
we're
folks
not
a little
there
bit
yet.
Too much credit.
And I'm not only not there, I don't think we're ever going to be there. I don't think we're ever going to be there.
Well, I think.
Now, hold on. Let me tell you the funny part about it, though. See, this is the discussion we're having now, but we have discussion 30 years from now. They go more affirmative action because they're going to be the minority.
Right.
So
and that
it's going to be a whole nother argument.
Well. Here's what I think about the comment on your first point. I don't necessarily know. Affirmative action doesn't ever make things equal.
No. It's just better.
So I don't think I don't know if things from a power perspective will ever be equal. I don't know if that's possible.
No, I don't.
But all affirmative action does is open the door for, one or two individuals that perhaps the door might not have been open. Here's my point, though. My point is those one or two individuals that are looking for open doors, if you will, there's open doors now, I think, sometimes in the community that you might be able to reach that doesn't require some affirmative action policy. But because we aren't, some of us aren't reaching back in the community to find out, and find other individuals and bring them up. Some of us don't do that. Some of us also don't work together, effectively, so that it becomes easy for that to happen, right? But again, that all comes back to us. That's an us issue, though. That's not a policy issue, because if there's one thing I commend the pastor of the church, the Experience Christian Center, for saying, everything you need is in the house, so that if there's something that you want, it's in the house. So research and find out what the people in the house are doing, so that if you ever need something, reach out to those people in the house. Does that mean they're going to give it to you for a discount? No. Does that mean that, now you're getting it for free? No. But they may be able to help you work to get to where you want to go without necessarily having to worry about the next thing, after having worried about some affirmative action policy being in place or not being in place to get you where you need to go. And so what I'm suggesting is a lot of the things that we want are in the community already. And so it's a matter of us reaching back from when you're at the top, if you will, reaching back to bring others around, or being able to effectively work together. Because that's what other people are doing. That's what they're doing. They're not looking for policies to be in place in order for them to be effective. People come from over the other countries and come here, and when they get here, they're not looking for affirmative action to be in place to allow them to start their business. That's not what they're looking for. And they're not dependent on it, which is the big thing, which is my point, depending on it. They're not depending on some kind of policy to be in place for them to be successful in business. They're looking at the resources in their community and then taking advantage of those resources and then starting whatever that they're trying to do. And I think that's where the lack is in our community. Because, when you look at our numbers, we're spending over $1 trillion in the community. The community is spending $1 trillion a year. So we're not broke. The question is, where is that $1 trillion going? Are you giving it to other people? Are you giving it to us? You giving it to, your own? What are you doing with that $1 trillion? So the money is there. It's a matter of effectively using the resources. And I don't think having a affirmative action policy, because my personal opinion, it's only a matter of time before they get rid of it. Because it is, I think, the mentality of it is really weighs heavily on certain people. And there's a movement to destroy it. And so I think it is going to go. But I don't think that's going to affect us unless we, stop effectively being able to, or we don't ever decide to effectively work together. I think if we can do that as a community, I think regardless if the policy's there or not, we'll survive and still thrive. Because I think that's what we're lacking now. I think we'd be a lot further along if we were working together more effectively. The policies aren't keeping us down. Us are keeping us down. So affirmative action, no affirmative action. I think it's going. I don't necessarily think it's necessary. I think we need to step up as people. We need to more effectively work together in the community. And when we do that, I think we'll start to strive and succeed, regardless of whatever policies are or are not in place.
I don't deny anything that you're saying.
Thank you, Jeremy.
We definitely do need to work together better. But the one thing that you have to understand, stuff you're talking about, the stuff is going to take a generation. It's a generation of change. You're going to have to start encouraging. It's like an encouragement thing. Okay, let's buy at the black beauty supply store. Let's get our nails done at the black salon, or our hair done at the black salon. Go to the black barber. Go to the black grocery store, or the black corner store, or whatever you want to say. But everything's not. Some of that stuff is a little inconvenient, and everybody's not willing to be inconvenienced at this time. And nor should they. And to speak to the other point, other people do come from other countries and do other things, but let's just be honest. there may not be laws on the books, but there are definitely things in play where they can get going a little easier than we can. Do you agree?
Well, give me an example of what you think is in play for them to get going easier than we can.
Where there are avenues to get financing, avenues to, well, as far as credit issues, when you have certain privileges or advantages, or as you might say, when you're coming in and you're an immigrant, you achieve citizenship status. There are certain things that are available to you that are not available to the average everyday American, whether it be for credit issues or whatever. But it's just stuff that's in place to help them out, because they want them to come here, be productive citizens, and so it's stuff in place. Especially if they have it's a little easier. And like you said, some of them can walk into a situation where they're already in a thriving community. So yeah, it's a little easier. So they don't have to worry about location problems or demographic problems with their businesses and things like that.
All right. I don't necessarily know that that's the case, but I'll take your word for it, brother. Because I don't necessarily know that that's the case. I think from just my personal opinion and from what I've seen, I just think a lot of it just has to do with their communities being very supportive. And perhaps and I think there's already money in the community. And so, that money is seeming to move around within the community, which is what allows them to sort of move the way that they do. I don't necessarily know that I'm sure that there's a policy probably in place, but I don't think it's the policy that is allowing the movement. I think it's the community that's supporting the movement, which is why it moves the way it does. Because regardless of a policy doesn't grant every people to just walk in and be in the country a year, and then now they have a new business. That's not policy. That's either a network of money that you had previously or a community of money that you're pulling off of and building from. And so again, I think we have some of those same resources. We have to work on effectively using them. And I think the moment we do, you say a generation. I hope it doesn't take a generation. But I hope it doesn't take a generation. But that's something I think we have to work on and strive to do better with. And again, when we do, I think that's when we'll see our change, because our changes are going to come again. A change isn't coming from policy. There's been policy in place for 50 years, and that policy is from a financial perspective, we're still in the same place, on average, when you look at different percentages as we were 50 years ago. So policy's there, and policy isn't changing anything. So if it's going to change, it's going to have to change within the community itself. Again, we're spending over $1 trillion a year. So the money is there. It's about better, more effective use of that money and putting it in other places, about working together so that we can all move forward and rise above where we are today. It's also going to take, some financial things happening as well, just from a financial perspective. We got to do a lot better in investing, and that show's coming. But we got to do better with that as well, because there's a lot to be said just from doing a little bit. A little bit changes, a little bit today, and then it makes even bigger changes later. But you got to start. And so, it's us, man. It's us. When we do better, things will get better.
No,
that's the bottom line.
That is true.
Policy is not about policy. It's about us. You had something to say, Ms. McCray?
I mean, I just disagree, but hey.
I
think it's more than that.
Do me one favor. What do you disagree
You
with?
are correct. We do need to come together, but I think it's more than that. It's more than just us. There are obstacles in the way. You cannot tell me they're not obstacles that are stopping people who are trying, who are qualified, fits all the criteria and everything. There is something in that way that's going to make it harder for them to move on than somebody else. You can't tell me that's not true.
Well, but what I'm speaking to is not about the difficulty in making it happen. Because again, anything that is going to be successful is going to take work, and it's going to be some challenges in place. But it's not about the challenge; it's about making it happen. Because if you continue on and you strive and work around and work through the challenges, you can still achieve success, even though it was challenging. So it's not about the challenge. It's about getting there. It's about doing it. Because if you do it long enough, if you work hard at it, you will achieve success. Sometimes it may happen in a year. Sometimes it may take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. But you can get there. But it's about getting started. It's about being persistent. It's about working hard. And whatever challenges that they are, you can get over those challenges. So it's not about the challenge. And it's not about saying it's going to be easy, because that's not my point. My point is not that it's easy. It will be easy if we do that. My point is that if we can do that, if we can slowly build upon it, we will get there. That's my point. That's my point, is that we will get there. Not that it's going to be easy, not that it won't be challenging sometimes, not that people will step up and try and block you, because they're going to do all of those things, because that's life. No matter what you do, even when you have the government program in place, you're going to have challenges to get into the contract, per se. So it's not about that making it easier. It's not about challenges not being there. It's about working through whatever comes and then continuing on and pressing forward. And you can be successful if you continue to press forward. If you, again, sometimes, work inside the community and then press forward beyond that and then work through whatever challenges come up in the face of that. So it's not about not being challenging. It's not about not having to work, but it is possible. And that's the point. It is possible.
That's great.
And we see it all the time.
This is true. And I'm agreeing with you on that part. I'm just saying there are other factors to it.
Yeah, we got to step it up.
I'm just saying.
Yes, we are. Real quick, there was an event last Saturday for Miss McCray. Ms. McCray has talked about before some of her issues related to her health, and there was an event that happened for her, a culmination of efforts on behalf of Delta Sigma Theta. I did say that right, Delta Sigma Theta.
Sorority Incorporated.
Sorority Incorporated. I'm sorry,
you.
I didn't include Sorority
Thank
Incorporated.
you.
My apologies. The Orange County chapter.
The Orange County Alumni Chapter.
The Orange County Alumni Chapter. They did some.
The rest of them don't count?
I mean, they started it. The other sorority, the other chapter did help. Thank you so much. But the Orange County Alumni Chapter
started it. And then I know the Experienced Christian Center stepped in.
Correct. Partnership.
And they partnered with them as well. And what they essentially did is they helped raise some funds for Miss McCray. That helped raise some funds for Miss McCray in reference to her issues that she's going to have when she goes to get the transplant she needed. So I'll let her speak for a second about that.
To anyone who came to support me and my family, I thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart. I cannot say thank you enough to the ladies of the Orange County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, to the Experienced Christian Center, to Pastor Derek L. McRae. We are not related. We're spelled differently. To the committee, the Friends of Phyllis McCray's Benefit Committee. Thank you to my friend Tarsha Smith, who's sitting in the studio right now. She did a dance, a surprise dance that Saturday. She should say hello because she's sitting here in the studio. Say
hello, family, and you're welcome, Phyllis.
Okay, see how easy that was? But yes, thank you to everyone who donated, who said a prayer, who just sent positive vibes my way. I thank you. The journey is not over yet, but your love and support this far will help me get through it all. Thank you.
Yes, and we do love you, Miss McCray. I'm sure the audience does too. So that happened last Saturday. Great event that took place, and to sort of culminate all of the things that they've been doing over the last few months for Miss McCray. And so we know that the call will be coming, her transplant will happen, and she will recover from that. And she's gonna take a little leave from us when it happens, and that's okay. But she'll be back with her It's Tuesdays moments. She'll be back with us after that takes place. And so we're going to go ahead and get ready to, I think we only got a couple minutes left, Mr. Jeremy.
Yes, a couple minutes.
Got a couple minutes left. So real quick, the last thing that's happening in the Supreme Court is another case related to gay marriage is happening, and they expect a ruling on that. It has to do in California, this one. It has to do with Prop 8. Prop 8 was a initiative that banned. The state actually approved gay marriage. A bunch of people got married, gay couples got married in California, and then they put on the ballot Prop 8, they called it. And then Prop 8 said, it banned it, said it was illegal. And so there's a challenge against the Prop 8 in California. And so, again, a lot of people are looking at that because the Supreme Court's decision is going to, again, dictate sort of how states move forward in, approving these types of measures. And then potentially whether or not even we might even see some comments from the federal government, especially since our current president is a fan of gay marriage. And thinks it should happen. So seeing how this goes down might prompt perhaps some movement within the federal government as well to sort of put their stamp on what it is they think should or should not happen relative to gay marriage. So a lot of people are watching that as well. They have arguments going on with that one today. The actual affirmative action cases are going to be argued a little bit later. But again, the results, again, aren't expected to come until June. We've talked about gay marriage on the show. I know where the audience is at for the most part. I know where the panel's at. But that is happening as well. Like I said, a lot of things that have potential effect on us down the road. We want to thank you for listening again this week. This is your host, Jay Real. Make sure you come back next week, 9 p.m., Real Family Talk. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on the website, realfamilytalk.weebly.com. Also, Facebook, Real Family Talk. You can follow us on Twitter, Real Family Talk. The website, realfamilytalk.weebly.com. This is WOKB 1680 AM.
WOKB, Winter Garden, Orlando.